The Las Vegas Raiders just completed what might be their Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. This is one-year solutions for long enough that the fan base has developed a kind of protective numbness around the position. 1 year and out, promises and disappointment. The carousel that became the defining feature of the franchise. Mendoza ends the field. The kind of quarterback whose decision-making is clean enough and whose processing is quick enough that the offense around him can actually function as designed, rather than constantly compensating for the man under center. When he met Raider Nation at the welcome event this past weekend and talked about working his way up from the bottom even as the first overall pick, that humility from a player with every reason to feel entitled tells you something about the character underneath the talent. Kirk Cousins will start this season and provide genuine mentorship value in the quarterback room. That development environment, having a veteran of that caliber to learn from up close, rather than being thrown into the fire immediately, is a real advantage for Mendoza's long-term growth. The future of this franchise just arrived, and the arrival feels different from anything this organization has had since Derek Carr was in his prime. Round 2. Trident Stokes, safety out of Arizona. I'll be straight. When the name came across, my initial reaction carried some uncertainty, because he wasn't one of the loudest names in the pre-draft conversation. But the more I dug into what Stokes actually does, and the more I thought about the defensive scheme being installed in Las Vegas, the more this selection made sense. Former walk-on who earned his way to legitimate draft consideration, that competitive character, built through years of proving doubters wrong rather than riding reputation, is the foundation of what he is as a player. The 4.33 gives him elite speed. He allowed 0 touchdowns in 2025. He can play free safety, the slot, or outside depending on what the coverage structure demands. In a zone-heavy defensive system, having a center field presence with that range and that football IQ is genuinely valuable. And the value this pick represents relative to where he was available makes this a quality day 2 investment. Welcome to the Silver and Black. Round 3, pick 67. Crone Crawford, edge rusher out of Auburn. My honest first reaction was questioning whether this was the right positional priority. But the more I examined Crawford's specific profile, and the more I understood how the defensive line is being constructed following the Tyree Wilson trade, the clearer the logic became. He has the explosive first step that pass rush requires. He's genuinely twitchy off the snap with the flexibility to bend around the edge that translates at the professional level. He can line up with his hand in the dirt in a 4-3 or stand up as a 3-4 outside linebacker, giving the defensive staff real flexibility based on down, distance, and matchup. Some evaluators have him in the same conversation as Kel Falk, a player who went considerably earlier, which makes the value here real rather than speculative. His ceiling is genuinely high, and Rob Leonard has a track record of developing pass rushers when he gets the right raw material. Crawford has the raw material. Round 3, pick 91. Trey Zuther, offensive lineman out of Texas A&M. This is the depth pick the Raiders needed and frankly should have addressed earlier, but getting it here still counts. His PFF pass blocking grade is among the highest ever recorded at the position in college football, which tells you the technical foundation is already there without requiring extensive professional refinement. He can play center, guard, or tackle, meaning the coaching staff has genuine flexibility in how they deploy him based on what the line needs at any given point. He projects most naturally competing for a guard spot alongside what's already in the room, and that interior depth, behind Fernando Mendoza, or even behind Cousins this season, matters enormously. Last season demonstrated what offensive line instability costs an offense. Zuther is the organizational commitment to not repeating that lesson. Day 3. Jamin McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee. I want to be genuinely honest about this pick because the honesty is what makes it meaningful. McCoy was a legitimate top 10 talent before the injury, not projected top 10, actual top 10 caliber player. His athleticism, his ball skills, his ability to play both man and zone coverage at an elite level. In a healthy draft, he goes in the first round with no serious debate. He ran a 4.37 40 at his pro day. He posted a 38-inch vertical. He is everything you want physically and technically at the cornerback position. The question that caused him to fall all the way to day 3 is whether a potential additional surgery affects his career going forward. And I'm not going to minimize that uncertainty because it's real and it's significant. But getting a player with that profile on a day 3 pick is a low-risk, extremely high-reward investment that any analytically sound front office should be willing to make. If McCoy comes through healthy, and I genuinely believe that's the more likely outcome, The Raiders just acquired one of the best corners in this entire class at a fraction of his actual market value. That's the kind of draft day swing that defines classes in retrospect. Round 4, pick 122. Mike Washington, running back out of Arkansas. I was excited when this name came across because the fit with what Las Vegas already has in Ashton Jeanty is genuinely compelling to think about from a defensive coordinator's perspective. Washington runs a 4.340. He's a big play threat every time he touches the ball. The kind of back who can take any designed run all the way to the house because his straight line speed doesn't give defenders angles to cut off. Jeanty is the thunder in this backfield. Washington is the lightning. The specific problem that combination creates is that defenses cannot solve both backs with the same approach. Load the box for Jeanty and Washington runs past the safety, shade coverage to account for Washington's speed, and Jeanty runs through the space that creates. Both backs create problems that different defensive adjustments create for the other. That's a backfield that can be deployed situationally to manipulate defensive structure, and having a young core of offensive weapons surrounding Mendoza for when he takes over, Jeanty, Washington, Brock Bowers, the receiving core, only makes his future situation more exciting. Round 5, pick 150. Dalton Johnson, safety out of Arizona. This pick made immediate sense the moment the Stokes connection became clear. Johnson and Stokes played together at Arizona. They know each other's tendencies. Their communication patterns and coverage are already established through years of playing alongside each other. In a zone defensive scheme where the back end constantly communicates coverage responsibilities and rotation adjustments in real time, that pre-existing chemistry has concrete functional value you simply cannot manufacture through training camp alone. He led Arizona in tackles in back-to-back seasons. He can play the box, free safety, or outside depending on assignment. He's a dog. Disciplined, physical, with the football IQ to process his zone responsibilities faster than offenses expect. The secondary is being built with genuine organizational thought behind it, and Johnson and Stokes operating together in that back end is a real vision rather than assembled necessity. Round 5, pick 175. Zeke Massey's, cornerback out of Cal. Just when you thought the Raiders were finished addressing the secondary, they went back to the well one more time. And honestly, the production numbers make the reasoning clear. He led the nation with 18 pass deflections and 5 interceptions in 2025. That's not a favorable schedule artifact. That's a corner who finds the football, who has the ball skills and the instincts to disrupt passing games at a rate that translates. He plays both man and zone, has genuine speed to stay with receivers vertically, and has the kind of experience on special teams that makes Day 5 picks immediately useful rather than developmental projects. The frame is thinner than ideal, and he can be liability against the run in certain alignments, but at this point in the draft, finding a corner with that production profile and that ball-hawking quality represents real value. Another addition to a secondary that is starting to look considerably better than it did a year ago. Round 6, pick 195. Malik Benson, wide receiver out of Oregon. The Raiders finally addressed the receiver position late in Day 3, and the fit with Fernando Mendoza's arm talent is genuinely interesting to think about. Benson runs a 4.3740. 5 of his 6 touchdowns last season came on plays of more than 40 yards, 5 of 6. That number describes a specific player type, a receiver whose primary contribution mode is changing the entire momentum of a drive or a game with a single explosive play that covers the field. In an offense built around establishing the run and controlling game scripts, having a receiver who forces safeties to respect him vertically before the snap keeps the box lighter than it would otherwise be, keeps secondary players from committing downhill on run plays, and creates downstream spacing effects that benefit everything else the offense is trying to do. He's developmental and will need time to refine his route tree, but the speed is real and the big play track record is documented. With genuine roster spots available in the receiving room, Benson has a real opportunity to prove himself in the preseason. Round 7, pick 229. Brandon Cleveland, defensive tackle out of NC State. The final pick of the draft, and from everything I've seen on him, this is a legitimate late-round find. He plays with violent hands, the technical ability to strike, control, and disengage at the point of attack that separates functional defensive tackles from ones who simply occupy space. He stays square without getting moved laterally, which is is the fundamental requirement of a run-stopping interior lineman. 6'4", 315 pounds with 4 years of starting experience against ACC competition. In a defense potentially shifting toward 3-4 alignment, Cleveland has the profile of a nose tackle who anchors the middle, holds his gap, and allows the edge players around him cleaner paths to the ball carrier. Finding that kind of functional interior presence on the final selection of the entire draft is genuinely good roster management. Looking at the full class together, what stands out most is the coherence. Franchise quarterback finally in place at pick 1. Secondary rebuilt across multiple selections with players who bring real versatility and real chemistry with each other. Offensive line depth added for a unit that demonstrated last year what happens when the depth isn't there. A running back partner for Gianti who creates an entirely different kind of offensive problem for opposing defenses. A deep threat receiver whose fit with Mendoza's arm is specifically exciting. A day 3 cornerback with top 10 talent available at a fraction of his actual value. A defensive tackle closing the class with legitimate run-stopping credentials. My grade for this draft class is an A, and I don't think that's bias talking. When you address the quarterback position definitively, add secondary depth that transforms that unit's projected quality, find genuine value at multiple positions across day 3, and close without a single selection that looks like a genuine mistake in context, that's the kind of draft weekend that changes the direction of a franchise. The Raiders needed this. They got it.